Good morning and welcome back to another Mountain Goat Gaming episode. My name is Jay, and this is the most committed I think I've felt in years. Joined by joined with me this morning is my lovely co-host Sean, and we've got probably the most exciting segment of our podcast. The thing that I'm most excited for. Um, we've got Mr. Scott. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, mate, not a drama whatsoever. So, part of what these series of videos is going to be about is highlighting hobbyists throughout SBG and just kind of diving into their mind of basically how can I be a better painter because these guys know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really both Sean and I feel really passionate in the sense of we want to talk competitive SBG and give you guys as much depth to the game as we possibly can. But we also wanted to really just shine some of the amazing talent that we have across the globe, you know. So Sean and I are in Australia and Scott's in the UK. And I followed him for quite a while on Instagram as well. And I thought, no, I'll shoot him a message and just see what happens. And lo and behold, here we are. So I super appreciate you taking the time to sit here and chat with two Aussies.
Well, you're very welcome. You guys made the sacrifice of getting up early. It's a nice evening for me.
I'm glad the screens have shrunk because I look like trash.
Me too. I reckon my voice is going to crack every now and then, so get ready for it. But no, it is very exciting. I love painting. I wouldn't go out there to say that I'm the best painter in the world, but I think the hobbying element of this is just as important as the gaming side of things. So it's exactly why I wanted to get in on chatting about all this stuff with yourself and hopefully many, many other hobbyists to come. I've been part of the Instagram scene because of COVID. I started up Two Banner Minis many, many years ago, and found lots of good mates through that Instagram scene, and I'm very excited to talk to more of them, a bit more in person than just via messages. So here we go. We'll move on to our first slide, if it's going to let me. Oh, there we go.
Love it. Love it. So I think we just would be doing Scott justice if we didn't shout out his Instagram. We'll put like a little in the description. Is that a thing we can do?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
put that up there so that way you guys can go ahead and give him a follow because you'll get gorgeous shit like this on your phone. At least
Every
every
once in a while.
yeah. So SW Painting Studios is where Scott's from. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're a commission painter. Do you take international commissions?
Um, the commission is kind of like a very much a side thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually a teacher by day, and I got to the point where I kind of wished and dreamed to sort of do commission as a main thing, but it's it's mainly trying to keep it as a passion project, because you don't really want to turn your work into hobby and vice versa. Um, but yeah, it's been a little journey. I started it up just as somewhere to post pictures, and I got a couple of friends sort of saying, "Oh, could you paint this for me? Could you do that for me?" And I just thought, actually, you know what, I might just try and set up a paint studio and do that on the side and see how it goes.
That's the dangerous slippery slope, and very very much how I started with my Instagram was I just want somewhere to put some stuff, and then as you do that, mates go, "Hey, I don't want to paint this. Can you paint this for a bit?" And like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then it goes from one model to two to three to 20
All
to a full
armies, yep.
army, and he's like, "I guess this is what I'm doing." But yeah, it's a fun little journey. So we'll actually talk about your journey. Like where'd you start? Were you a gamer at heart and then you got into the painting, or were you always more of a hobbyist, would you say?
Definitely always been a hobbyist. But I got into the hobby in 2006 with my brother. We very much were Lord of the Rings children, watching the extendeds from an early age. Um, and he found out about SBG and the miniatures, and we both sort of lost our little minds about it. And we just wanted to sort of get into that, and like it was something we could do together. But it was to the point where when we started, I knew nothing about the hobby. We just got some paints from Games Workshop. Just started slapping it on. I'll go, right, there's my silver. Right, silver's on my Minas Tirith Warrior. That's great. Skin pink. But we didn't even know what priming was. So priming miniatures was just not a thing for us. And so we slowly progressed together. And we did various things like going to I think Games Workshop, they used to do something called like a hobby camp, where you could actually like pay something like, I think it was about £60, and you'd get £60 worth of miniatures, and you would take them to the store and you'd paint them in the store, and the staff would actually sit down and help you through your painting and give you tips and tricks. And I think that's kind of like where my spark kind of came from. Like there was one particular guy who worked there who was just like, actually, kid, like you've actually got like something going for you here.
There's
like
some
that's
talent.
really good. And
that's what you want to
like
hear.
it was really encouraging. And like I sort of blame him for my crippling debt now. But yeah, because like I was playing up Easterlings, and it was probably like War of the Ring era, and I ended up winning like the best army at Warhammer World. And I think that kind of just like as a kid, it was for like the school league. And it was so amazing, and I think that just kind of gave me the bug, and I was like, I want to keep going to tournaments, keep winning these best army awards. And that's kind of been my journey.
And then obviously you mentioned with Instagram, it started off as just a place to portfolio your models and everything. And so how's that journey, the Instagram journey, been going?
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really use Instagram very much on like a regular basis. Like I know a lot of people use Instagram like very frequently and do it very well, and they understand how the platform works really well. I love like taking inspiration from other people, so like I think that was a big thing for me using it as well, was seeing what other painters are doing and looking for those tips and tricks. Like I'm always looking at people going, oh my gosh, like that cloak is awesome, like I love the color. I'm just going to send a message and see if they give me the recipe for it. And you'd be so surprised at how much you can learn from other people on the platform, because people usually go to places like YouTube and they'll look for tutorials, and you will guaranteed find something on YouTube if you're looking to paint something specific. But I think something that people widely underestimate is like picking up those tiny tips and tricks, like oh, how do you wet blend that? And they'll say, oh well, actually I used like 2 brushes instead of 1. Or like I will pick up a tip on non-metallic metal, and it's a specific paint that someone's used because it works differently to other paints. And you just learn so much through just asking, like not being afraid to go, how do you do that? That's awesome.
I'm so glad you said non-metallic metal. What was your journey for non-metallic metal? Because mine is still going and it's absolute trash.
No, I mean, I would never say that. Never say your work is trash. Be self-reflective.
It's progressive trash.
I mean, I by no means, I see my non-metallic metal as very basic still. Like I've only just grasped how to do one color, and even then I'm still kind of improving on it by again looking at other people's work and going, oh, they've used this reflection, or they've actually added, or they've used more dark, or there's so much that that I don't know how to do still. Like I've never attempted gold. That's something that I'm looking to do soon. But gaining the knowledge and the confidence to do that, I think, is really hard for a lot of people. Like it's something that is I would say like a taste thing. Like a lot of people just don't like non-metallic metal at all. Completely valid. Like absolutely fine. But sometimes like just to push that boundary and go, I wonder if I just try it out, and you grab a test model and you just have a go, have a play. Like the first one I did was awful. Like I think I actually binned it. but like I'm slowly, hopefully, getting a little bit better. But yeah, there's still a lot of non-metallic metal I don't do.
Non-metallic metal's always been a interesting one in my mind. Like I know when I first attempted non-metallic metal, I was, yeah, absolute rubbish with it. But then there was like a 6-month period in my life where I was painting non-metallic metal. I was like, oh my God, I've done it. I can do it. It's great.
Yeah.
Now I can't. I've forgotten how to do non-metallic metal. I look at non-metallic metal that I've done and I just go, nah, 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 nah. That's not the way. Let's go back to classic G dub, metallics and whatnot, and try and get a bit more of a, what do they call it? True metallic metal or something
True
along the lines of
metallic
that?
metal,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've personally anyway moved along to that over non-metallic, but man, like what a fun, like I love spending like 2 hours on like a blade or something. Like I've
Yeah,
always
it's something
found,
very satisfying
yeah,
about like that last highlight you do that makes it look like metal, like that white edging,
exactly.
and just kind of brings it all together, and it's very satisfying.
You're literally like, is this stone? Have I just painted, like spent an hour and a half painting a stone sword? Like, fuck, like this is bad. And then you put that white on, you go, actually, this is good.
Coming from 40K, I painted a lot of power swords, and I painted them with the airbrush, and then would go in and glaze up to the nice bright purple or orange or blue or whatever. And there was a moment for me where I was like, hang on, I could just do this with browns and yellows and get gold. Except for Lord of the Rings, it feels really like critical. Like your work, every little stroke that you do can either make or break the model when you're doing non-metallic
Yeah,
metal. I'll take the Guard of the Gladstone Court, for example. On the back of their cloaks, the new ones, right? The back of their cloaks, they have that lining that runs through. I tried to do
yeah.
non-metallic metal gold for that. Now,
Brave man.
so I got there, but the problem was is that for the first test model that I did, there was a matter of just 3 to 4 different attempts just to try and get the right consistency of, you know what, I'm finally happy with this. And I put all of my, I suppose, like doubt aside. It's like, this doesn't have to be perfect. Just trust the process and just keep going. And then, eventually I got to the end and I was like you said, that white highlight, that white little line where it was like, oh shit, there's the reflection. Oof, like
Yeah.
that's a good moment. So I think like if you're out there, and you're definitely wanting to up your game, number one, get a community around you. Go talk to people.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know these people, like I have never met Scott before, and turns out he's a great guy who wants to sit here and talk smack.
Oh.
Like, but now it's a case of if I have like a model that I'm kind of on the edge about, or want like another opinion as well, I'll flick him a message, or I'll flick Short a message, and kind of just get a couple of people around you, and I think it helps for motivation because
Absolutely.
it can be really lonely doing it just by yourself all the time, and I think that's why people go to Instagram to kind of just promote what they're doing, not so much for gloating purposes, just for a bit of motivation.
I would add like just to also be mindful of Instagram, because like every single time you go onto it, you may feel like it's a negative experience. Like there's a lot of times when I've looked at somebody else's work and I go, holy crap, I can't believe they've done that.
Yeah.
Like how on earth, like mine looks so, like I don't understand how I can't do that. You've got to be really mindful of that and just kind of go, well, this person's probably been painting for like 20, 30 years, and they've tried and failed, or they've got all of the people around them with the support. And
Yeah.
I would just be mindful, like as long as you've done like as best as you want and or can, like that's all that really matters, and you will improve over time.
100%.
So
Yeah, it's all about if you're happy with your work and at the level of your work at that point in time, uh, you're only going to get better if you keep painting and painting and painting.
Scott, last one for me, and I've just noticed it because I'm a bit of a grimdark fan. Do you use Streak and Grime for your Araman?
yes, it did. Yeah, Streak and Grime is like bottle magic for
Mm.
getting that grim dark feel.
Hell,
I did the same thing with my Gundabad stuff. Just getting that like really dark, dingy like look, and it's really quick, and it gives you that like matte finish at the end as well, which I really like.
it's wicked. Have you found that the new Streak and Grime is more green than brown?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah,
Not just
it's
me.
got I like it's been slightly relabeled as well. I think it says like wash for dark
Yeah,
green,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, okay, it's not
yeah,
quite the same as the tutorials I was
yeah.
watching, but
No,
I've
which
I've I've never used Streak and Grime personally, but I have heard people talk about the recipe change and how they've now gone out and tried to find different equivalents to the old Streak and Grime. It's a bit of a shame when something so, I guess you could say, pivotal in the community. So, for example, Known Oil from GW,
I knew you were
that
gonna say that.
yeah, that got changed like 2 years ago or something. Oh, that ruined me. Oh my Lord. That because it went from a nice, thick, heavy black to a grey. And that
Mm.
just yeah, the army at the time that I was painting, I was halfway done. You can see quite a distinct difference between pre, recipe change of the Nolan oil.
streaking grime was probably my moment of like I went through a streaking grime phase, bro. Like Grim Dark Compendium, that dude, sultry tunes. It was so soothing. And then watching what he was doing was just like next level, especially for 40K, right? It fits the theme so nicely. But
Yeah.
that actually started like my whole, well, maybe I try oils and I see how oils go.
Yeah.
Like, let's try black oil, let's try purple oil, let's try, and like, holy dooly. Like really overwhelming at the start just to kind of wrap your head around the mixing and what type of mineral. Like if you get if you try, for example, metho is way too strong and actually can strip back your paint quite quickly. Yet if you go for white
Yeah.
spirits, it's nowhere near as concentrated, but will actually mix the oils a hell of a lot better. I don't use washes anymore. Like all of
No,
GW washes, they're so trash in comparison to using oils. Because literally you just go like you get your brush, you sit there, you just like done. Like it just
you could probably dip it as well.
oh yeah, and it would work the same thing. Like God, it's cool.
I think this links really great into the next slide, which is your style of painting. Um,
Mm.
And
so
water. And
yeah. So look, it seems to be as people have seen, there's only been about 6 photos put up. I had to do a mad dash last night to create this PowerPoint and get some images. But yeah, it's got that grim dark is probably a good way. Muted tones, which is
Yeah,
absolutely lovely. What
like
what drew you to that?
I mean, it depends because I think I just try and paint with certain colors a lot. Like, I know SPG is really known for brown,
yeah,
um, like all the different shades of brown, and I like the sort of muted look because it looks a bit more sort of realistic.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of reminds me of a lot of the movies because not everything is super pristine. Goblins are supposed to be kind of a bit grungy, like especially those evil factions. Um, and honestly, I would say it's almost a little bit easier to paint that way as well,
yes,
um, because it's a bit more forgiving. Like if you are painting a very prestigious looking kind of elf, and he's very like white cloak, untouched, all that kind of stuff. Like
goats.
mistakes will appear a lot easier.
Yeah,
Where you're telling me you don't want to spend an hour painting the leopard print on your elves?
I've seen your leopard print elves, yes. With the blue horses, isn't
Yeah,
it?
my blueberry horses. That's it. Yeah, no, I
Very
like
creative.
it. Oh, it's something, that's for sure. No, I personally do love the more muted style of painting. So what you've done is right up my alley in terms of visually. But personally I can't achieve it. I've tried and I just can't. So that's why I dipped straight back into, you know, crazy colors that are probably maybe a bit more suited towards 40K.
Sure.
But yeah,
I
man,
think
your
also the other
stuff is
thing is like paint range. Like the
mm,
paints that you enjoy using
yeah,
like will determine how your colors will actually result. So a lot of the paints that I use, like I've become a huge scale 75 fan.
yes,
Um, they have very matte paints,
yeah,
and all their colors are like quite muted, but also quite rich. And I find that things like Vallejo and Citadel, they're very kind of cartoony colors. Like they're very like this red is red, and this orange is orange. And there's not like a lot of leeway in between unless you mix your own paints. And that's something else that I'd also recommend is like having a go with mixing your paints. Like you're going to get such good transitions that way.
Yeah.
I see a lot of beginner painters who will go into Games Workshop. Like it's no fault of their own. They've done the right thing. They've asked the question like, what paints am I going to get for like my ultramarines or whatever? And they'll just go, here's a blue. Here's the next brightest blue. Here's the next brightest blue. And then you just kind of do that. You go 1, 2, 3, and then you kind of end up with this kind of really cartoony looking like gradient almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
no, I respect that a lot. I think one more thing I want to pick your brain about is I've noticed like a trend with the bases. So like the elf bases were very much like you've got your rock, you got a bit of flock with a bit of leaves, that whole very like Rivendell in the autumn. You know what I mean? Like that's a really nice way to then you've then complemented the colors on top, very similar to the bottom, right? Yet if we jump ahead to Moria and Azog's, when I'm looking at the Azog bases, you've obviously gone for, I'm assuming when Azog's at the top, that Fighting Thorin, that icy feel as well. But it's not just like a crackle paint with a dry brush of white and blue. You've actually gone ahead and got like a deep ice with a bit of snow on top. And then you jump over to these little gobos, and it's like, man's got resin, water this high for Druzag, or what's his name again?
Groblog.
There you go. It was one of them. Bro, stop it. How?
I mean, like basing is like one of my favorite parts at the end. Like I always think of a storyline for an army. Like where is this army? Like, you know, where are they going? Where have they come from? Like, what point of the movie is this, or is it part of the books, or is it something completely off piece? And I want the models to be really immersed in their environment. It just is a big reason for like that, like why I do the hobby is like getting that immersion. And these bases were very much like used to like scoured the internet for probably about 2 days, trying to find a 25 mil cylinder silicone mold. And I managed to find it. It was supposed to be for like chocolates, and I had it shipped from America. And there was only 3 or 4 components, I think. So I would pour 3 or 4 bases at a time. And with both these armies, like over 40 models in each army. So it was a long process.
Because I've only got one.
Sorry, go on.
I've only got one silicone mold.
Yeah.
Like
is that the green stuff world one?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was really annoyed when I found those. They made them about 3 weeks after I finished the army.
Oh no!
I was like, I could have used.
Yeah, no, it's nice. You can buy a set from Green Stuff World. They start from 25 up to 30, and then they go all the way up to the big, like the Cave Drake base, the 120, which is really nice. But they're only about that thick, so they're quite shallow by the time you add a couple of elements to the base as well. But yeah, no, that's proper sick. And you've got a couple of conversions in there as well. How do you sculpt a lot of things, or are you more of a kit basher?
My sculpting is pretty atrocious. That's probably my weakest skill as a hobbyist is using green stuff. But you know, using the tools and that kind of stuff, like I can do simple stuff, like add a neck join or like patch an elbow or something like that. I have attempted cloaks a few times, like the Moria troll, for example. You can't quite see it, but he's got a big cape on the back. That's all green stuff. No, I'm definitely more of I'm gonna chop this piece off and just swap it with this guy's. It's a lot easier that way.
You can see it with your marauders down there as well. You've got the Felwargs or the wolf.
They're actually the 40k wolves.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called now, but it was a box of 6. But they were a lot easier.
Fenrisian wolves or something.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. They were just a bit longer.
Yeah. And how did you go with your freehand?
Freehand, freehand. It really depends on what it is that I'm doing, as to whether or not it turns out okay.
Yeah.
um, like I find freehand is one of those things that I try and think of a conceptual design. I very much have to have a reference in front of me, and I will either simplify it as much as I can, put it into sort of blocks and do the rough outlines of shapes, and then slowly fill it in. So there's a lot of back and forth to get it right, and even then, most of the time, I'm not quite happy with it. But one of the biggest things I've learned is to just move on. Like after you've got to a certain point, there's no point in just making yourself spend 8 hours on one part of the miniature that like nobody else is probably going to even see.
Absolutely.
But you will always learn from them as well. Like it's just one of those things that you have to take the small wins. Like, oh, that shape really worked well for a face. I'm going to do that again for the next one. Or this color combo really worked or didn't work. And you just apply it to the next one. That's all you really can do.
That's wicked. That's wicked. What's the next slide got, Sean? I forgot.
The next one was commission painting, which we touched on earlier, but we can go into a little bit more depth on it. I did see on your Instagram your Glorfindel, I think it was the 2-foot ones, where it was you had the golden level and what was the other standard of painting?
It would have been display or something similar.
Yeah.
I've
wish
actually
I
had
could. Oh, actually, sorry, I've got them up here. Sorry. There they are.
Thank you.
Yes.
The thing that really jumped out for me was on his little tabard. There's that little floral circular design.
Yeah.
How? That's incredible.
Well, on the yellow one, you mean on the the blue and white one?
Yeah, man.
Contrast paint that was.
Right. Wow.
Contrast paint and a tiny highlight, and that was it.
That's wicked. So
you just have to pick battles with some of these things. Like if you look at a miniature and you go, right, there's a really tiny detail here. How can I get the most effective results? And not spend an eternity on it, basically. And I looked at it and I went, right, well, one layer of contrast is going to do 90% of the work here. And then just highlighting around it in the correct colors will bring that together. But I have seen people doing a very good job at that tabard. There's golden demon entries that literally have just added more detail to that on inside of it. Just crazy.
Some people are ridiculous. That's it. Yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. So yeah, if you don't mind just going over your, I guess, levels of standards when you do commission painting, what can people kind of expect from you?
So, I mean, it's a bit of an interesting one. I've got a bit of a story behind this as well. So I set up the commission not knowing anything about commission painting really, or pricing, or setting up a website. It's the first time I set up a website as well. And so I used the kind of standard, like, gold, silver, bronze leveling system that most commission painters that I've seen have used. And I actually had a bit of a run-in with Siege Studios. James from Siege Studios gave me a message on Instagram asking to call me. And he was not very happy about the website having used a lot of like his kind of layouts and designs and like the Instagram photo kind of setup and that kind of stuff. There was honestly nothing that I wanted to do more than just go, really sorry, dude. I just thought it was a standard practice, like just using your website as a template, just to get started. I'll change it, no problem. So because of that and a possible legal thing, I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna just change the leveling system. So it's not bronze, silver, gold anymore.
Yep.
I've just relabeled it as Battlefield, which is your basic, get it on the table.
Yep.
Elite level, which is a little bit more than that, like just a little bit more standard to tabletop, what most people would try and get on the table. I'm trying to think of the names now. It's not as easy to remember. I think Commander is the next one, which is like for your heroes, you know, that extra bit of extra special effort. So the Glorfindel on the right, for example, that you can see on the screen, that's what I'd say Commander level is, that kind of gold level. And then right up to the top, which is like legendary, which I'd basically call like display level, which I take with a pinch of salt as to how achievable that actually is. Like the difference between what I'd say this Glorfindel and the display is like just a tiny bit of extra highlighting. It's so hard to split those levels without giving someone like a million hours of your time.
Yep.
Like it's a really fine balance of pricing, how much time you can actually give to somebody without taking the mickey, you know, because there's someone's hard-earned money that you're taking and they're expecting a very good job. And it's hard to kind of reach that balance of, okay, I can't charge you like as much as the time that I'm putting in, because that's just not fair, and you kind of have to call it quits at some point. So I'd say commission painting is actually very difficult to do and to sort of monitor. And there's a lot of videos that I've seen on YouTube that are like, okay, this is kind of how we're going to price it. I'm going to see if I can get it done within the hours. And a lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, they're like, I've gone over the hours, or it's just not up to the standard that I wanted it to be, and they spend more hours on it anyway.
I started commission painting when I had a major back injury a couple of years ago, and so I wasn't able to go to work. And at the time, I was working as a childcare educator, and so I didn't have any income, but I had a lot of medical bills. So I thought, what can I do? And I was like, well, I'm immobile at the moment. I can sit at a desk for hours upon hours upon hours. So I just sat there and I did commission work for people. I painted armies, I painted individual models to different levels. But then once I got back to full-time work, once my injury got better, I decided I had to put a full stop on any form of commission work, because I couldn't balance, you know, my full-time job, commission work, and so on and so on. So do you, obviously you balance that somehow, but what's the way you go about that?
I mean, I balance it with picking and choosing very carefully what commissions I think are achievable, and also giving myself a larger time frame. So if it's a single miniature, like I'll give sort of like a month time frame and be like, look, it's going to get to you, but it'll probably take a month. Just to give myself those leniencies of, I can work on it for an hour today, but after that I can't. I need to spend time with family, or you know, you've got other commitments. Everybody has commitments on top of your full-time work. But if it's something like a larger project, I say, look, it could take 6 months. And that's kind of up to your clients then to kind of say, yeah, no, I'll go to somebody else, no problem, that's fine. Or they'll say, yeah, no problem, go for it, like take your time. And that kind of really eases the pressure of getting it done and keeping that work-life balance.
I think the communication aspect of commission painting is definitely something that is paramount. Otherwise, you can run into a lot of traps on both ends. I've been very lucky in the sense of I've had lots of different like commission styles. I've had a commission job where I've painted a dude's army for 3 years because he just kept sending me shit. I've had other commission jobs where it's like, here's a single model. I really want this one to, you know, be to the best standard that you can be. And I'm like, yep, cool, no worries. And I try and bang it out as quick as possible. Like you, there's other work and I suppose external commitments going on in my life. I would love to be just a single bachelor who just lives and paints and games, but unfortunately, that's just not how it is. So I try and chunk, like if I've got a decent commission on, and I don't like it when projects sit. So if as soon as I get a commission in, I start it that night, just so that way at least I've got a little bit of momentum, whether it's priming, assembling, whatever. I just make sure that I start it so that way I've got a little bit of progress really early on, and then I keep going. It's the same with like when I'm marking kids' schoolwork. Like I start it that night and make sure that I'm at least chalking it through, um, rather than doing it all in one big go, like once every week. That's just how it works for me. Different styles, and I go like a bat out of hell with most things anyway. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it, and also just as a general, like getting hobby stuff done, like you said, chipping away. Um, Having two projects on at the go at all times is really good, because if you have burnout, with one particular project, if you're doing batch painting
yeah,
and you're just really sick of painting that brown cloak, and you just go, right, okay, this is like the 80th one I've done. I need a break. I need to do something else. You
hmm
go, oh, what's this over here? I'm just gonna do some building,
yeah,
or some conversions, and it's still progressing your hobby. It's still getting stuff done. Um, so it doesn't feel like you have to have a break and go and do something else. You're still having a break, but you're still progressing, and that's
Yeah.
really really a good tip.
I totally agree.
Like that transition was planned, talking about having two projects on the go. Current and upcoming
Ah,
projects. This is our last slide, so um, we're near the end of the road here, so not too much longer for us. But yeah, current and upcoming projects. What are we looking at?
so I have just finished painting my Khazad-dûm dwarfs, which
Beautiful.
which are very fun. Like I'll slowly be releasing those soon onto the Instagram, as well as my Easterlings, my sort of very now not so uncommon Japanese cherry blossom themed. Um, must have had the thought of the idea about, as soon as Dragon Emperor came out, I was like, that's cool, gonna do cherry blossom. Never got around to it, and I've seen at least 15 armies have done the same. um, but my current project, which is on the hobby desk over there at the moment, is Rohan, and it's a rather large project. Um, something like 25 Royal Guard on foot. Um, just all the heroes foot mounted, lots of conversion work. It's going to take a little while, but as the second project I've got going on at the moment, Star Wars Legion just released the new Clone Commandos.
Yeah.
So I'll be packing up 3 boxes of those, like every other Republic player.
Right.
Fair.
Do you guys play Legion?
I
I'm not entirely sure.
I dabbled in Legion for a bit. I painted up the 501st box set. I painted
Very
them up
nice.
as the 422nd Siege Battalion, led
Very cool.
by Plo Koon. Uh, yeah, and I enjoyed it. I had a bit of fun, and then they just sat on my desk or on my shelf for 6, 7, 8 months, and I wasn't getting any games in. They were taking up
Oh,
space, and someone popped up online. I was like, oh, I'm looking for some clones, and I was like, well, yeah, you can have mine. So I dabbled in it. I enjoyed it. I'm not 100% big on the whole like token system that's going. I like
yeah.
the alternating, like, token out of a bag kind of element similar to bolt action, but you know, putting all the suppression tokens and everything else, I was just like,
There's
this
a lot
is
to keep on top of.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of maintenance. Like
absolutely.
game admin, I'd call it. It's like having
Yeah,
lots of might, will, fate, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But I imagine it must have been quite a nice palette cleanser though from
absolutely.
SBG.
Yeah, it definitely was. And look, I actually haven't painted any SBG stuff since August last year. The last model I painted was Farmer Maggot and his 3 dogs. And it was in my very slow project that I'm doing at the moment, which is the Shire, but it's Hobbit Apocalypse is what I've called it. So I've painted up the 4 travelers, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Farmer Maggot's like the butcher of the Shire and is quite bloody and he's got his 3 hellhounds. So I've
Very
got this.
very Grim Reaper. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got that project going on, which I'm just gonna do as I get models for. I'm not gonna do it very quickly, so I'll see what happens there. But yeah, I've moved on to some 40K stuff at the moment, and the size difference and just those like flat panels, it's
Yeah.
it's beautiful. As you said, a perfect palette cleanser.
Yeah. I'm the total opposite. I've got so much shit going on. I'm looking at my desk and I'm like, I've just finished off my Arnold. I think it's 900 points of Arnold. I've just
Wow.
painted a Radagast on horse. I've finished painting the three hunters. I'm finishing painting up a serpent horde lead like section for my maid. And then after this, I've actually started digging out all of my Lothlorien and bringing them onto the table because I've got
That's
Beyondings have been started. I've got 10 more Beyondings to finish. Like I painted them up, got them ready for a tournament, put them on, and I had 10 Beyondings still left to go. They're still sitting there. And then
that's
I've
like half the army.
Yeah.
pretty much, and then I've gone nuts and I bought this Arnor army. I spent hours stripping it and then finally got it back to metal and then have slowly but surely built it up. And the one thing I didn't want to do is I painted up like a section for an 800 point army that I was playing. And then I had about, what is it, 19 odd models left and a couple of rangers. And I'm like, I know what I'm going to do here. This normally would sit on my shelf and I wouldn't touch it. And then I get back to it later. And it's like, no, I want to complete the arm. I want to get it finished, get it done and move forward. So I finally put my big boy pants on and yeah, they're sitting on the bench. I've got to base a couple of dudes. And then after that, I have started with a really, really bright Urukai armor. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint all their skin white. And then I'm going to streak and grind the hell out of it.
Hell yeah.
They're going
Nice. That sounds like a very fun plan.
oh, but I'm going to try chipping the chipping medium. I bought it ages ago, but I've never actually mucked around with it. I've done the hairspray technique a little while ago, and that was semi-successful. But I thought for the Urukai, they have the most armor apart from like Azog's Legion that I can actually use and really bring up. So I'm going to highlight all the battle damage and big chips and stuff like that, just to kind of bring
Yeah.
level of grimdark, dull it right down, but then bring it back up in a certain spots that I want you to look at, like glowing eyes, big chunks of battle damaged armor, and yeah, it should look pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, that's just how I work. I'm like my brain's like a firework. I've got one really great idea, and then like 700 come from that. my my projects are exactly the same.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, I think we'll start wrapping it up here, lads. But no, thanks for joining us and letting us dive into that wonderfully creative brain of yours there. You're doing some absolute, you're doing God's work, as some would say. Your stuff is absolutely gorgeous. And for anyone who hasn't, at the beginning of the video, hasn't already gone and checked out SW Painting Studio over on Instagram, dive in, have a look. We'll link all the stuff that we can for all of your stuff there, mate. And yeah, just
Thank you.
thank
Yeah, I
you.
really appreciate that, and it's been great to talk about the hobby. Especially with two guys, just not so welcoming and not really met before. It's been really lovely, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do on the channel.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll leave
Thanks very much.
everyone there. From me, from Jay, Scott over there, to you watching the video. Have a good one.
Bye.